Hello, I'm Mike Boyce, the Chairman of the Cobb County Board of Commissioners. And I want to bring you up to date here on where we are since I signed the declaration of emergency last Tuesday. Today I've amended that emergency to do a number of things. First of all, it's to continue the measures that we started taking last week to continue to flatten the curve. And by that I mean that perhaps the most important feature of addressing this virus is to ensure that those who come down with the illness associated with the virus have a place in the hospital. And I'm happy to report that Kennestone and Wellstar have informed us that there are still beds out there and they have ventilators. But it's more importantly that rather than use those beds and those ventilators, that we continue to take the necessary measures to make sure we don't have to use that healthcare system. And I think that there are a number of things that lead us to where we are right now. First of all, it's you, the public. Even though we signed the declaration of emergency last Tuesday, it is very clear to me after watching the results of the decreasing rate of the spread of the virus over the last week, you were already taking necessary steps to shelter in place. And regardless of what definition you want to use, to stay at home, shelter in place, you knew, because of all that we have been doing to inform you of what the nature of this virus is, you took that information and you've already started to act upon that. The second thing is that the school system, both the Cobb County School District and the Marietta School District, closed schools about 3 weeks ago, and that was a huge impact on preventing this virus from spreading. There's no question about it that when you take 117,000 people out of a close environment like the school system is, and even though there were some cases in the school system, by closing the schools, you nipped that in the bud. Thirdly, there's no question that some of the measures that we put in place of closing down, restricting businesses here, you've taken that to heart, and some of you have already indicated to me that made a very difficult decision not to open your businesses. There are a number that have done that led to the decreasing number of cases we had because your business is not open. But I want to talk about something else here that I think is very important. And that was last week when I made the declaration of emergency. I literally received hundreds of emails from the mothers of this county asking me why we had still allowed non-essential businesses to stay open. And my explanation is that I'm trying to strike that balance between maintaining some degree of economic vitality in the county so that when we come out of this pandemic, there will be some jobs there for people, but also to balance that against the health concerns of the public. And my explanation is that there were limitations on businesses there, but clearly we allowed some business to operate that you didn't think needed to be open. And I asked for your patience to get through this week to see if our measures were going to have the necessary impact to reduce the spread of the virus. The other part is that I knew that the federal level, the government, was going to be implementing some measures to provide funding to some businesses, like the small businesses that would be most impacted by closing down the non-essential businesses. So I was trying to give some oxygen to these businesses to stay alive. Well, the bottom line is, ladies and gentlemen, I've run out of time. I can't sit here and continue to assure the mothers of this county who have expressed concerns about the safety of their families, particularly their children, and also to try to find a way to keep these businesses open. There's no question in my mind that the federal government is going to provide some sort of funding here in the very near future, and my hat is off to the Cobb Chamber of Commerce that has done an incredible job of reaching out to the business community here to provide information about the lifelines that are there. But the bottom line here is that I no longer have the opportunity or the ability to keep the non-essentials open. So this new amended order is going to close a significant number of the non-essentials. There are still provisions in there where if you have a business that doesn't involve person-to-person contact, then you can stay open. And I'll give a great example. The other day I dropped off my tax return with my CPA. Now, I never talked to anybody. There was a sign on the door. Please drop your tax return in this box here, call us and we'll come out and get it. So there's no need to close down a business like that because there's no chance of spreading the virus. But there are some other cases out there where you can have contact, but you stay outside the 6-foot range. So do I want to try and define what all those businesses are? By doing that, I simply shift that from the non-essential category over to the essential services. And the essential services right now, as you know, are already significantly long. And that list wasn't just something that we generated here internally. That list was influenced heavily by a circular put out by the Department of Homeland Security. So there's a number of variables that we take into play here that help us shape our decisions. So the bottom line is right now, ladies and gentlemen, we are at, I believe, the end of the beginning. I have no doubt in my mind that this is still going to take us all the way through most of April, which is why I've extended the emergency order through April 24th, which is the limit of my ability to declare an emergency here in the county. Why is that? Because I want to make absolutely sure that all our measures do not bring back the virus. And here's the thing about the virus that is becoming more and more, we're more and more confident about, is that we can have people in this community that can be asymptomatic. In other words, they don't know they have the virus, and they can be walking around here, exhaling and breathing out this virus, and people are walking through that plume of air, and they pick up the virus. And because that's an unknown, and because we don't have the number of test kits still, that we can test everybody in the county who think they have the virus, or just test everybody in the county, period, it is a major unknown. And the only way that we can make sure that we have touched all the bases and that we have a community that is well in the recovery is to go the full 30 days of this emergency procedure, emergency operation time here, to ensure that we have not only arrested the virus, but we have all measures in place to make sure it doesn't come back. So the two major changes to the revision of the emergency order is I've expanded it to March 24th, and that we have tightened down on the definition of the non-essential businesses. Everything else staying in place. And the reason I'm leaving that alone is because it's worked. It's that simple. I look at the count every single night that's put out by the Georgia Department of Public Health as the number of viruses we have here in the county, and clearly there's a downward trend. But this is way too early to start taking it for granted. We can sort of ease up on this. We need to take this seriously, and I know you're doing that. And I cannot be more proud of all of you that are doing that. And I have no doubt in my mind that the vast majority of people in this county are taking this seriously and are doing the necessary precautions so that we can get through this pandemic. So I want to thank all of you for working with us. I ask for your patience, particularly those with the children at home that are in school. As you know, the governor has closed the school system for the rest of the year. And if there's any one reason why we want to get this behind us, is because you parents that now had your kids for home almost 3 weeks, and you're now going to have them home for another several weeks, the sooner we can get through this and the sooner you can get out there and resume your life, the happier we're all going to be. So there's multiple reasons why we need to stick together, work together, continue to fight this thing collectively, and do the right thing. And I ask of you to do the right thing. As much as I would love to keep the parks open, we've been advised by the Department of Public Health here to keep the parks closed because that is the major area here where you can still pick up the virus. We've added additional measures in the current revision of the emergency order to make sure your grocery stores and the big box outlets like, the Walmarts and the Costcos, they're already doing a lot of things here, but we want to add additional measures in there to make sure that they're not transmitting virus at this congregation of people that are in these stores. So I think the measures we've taken are reasonable. I know that you're going to work on them together with us, and we're going to get through this time together. And I want to thank all of you for making this a great county where we can still all continuously, safely work, live, play, and pursue our dreams.